Okay, this video is how to clean and adjust the chain on a motorcycle. Now, this bike is an '08 Ninja 250, but this will apply to most other bikes with chains as well. The first thing you want to do is get the rear wheel off of the ground. Now, most people have stands that you can actually just slide right under it and pop the rear wheel up, but mine is on order and I'm waiting on it. So I've put it up with 2 jack stands using some long bolts. As long as it's secure, not going to fall down, you should be alright. You're going to want to put it in neutral so that you can spin the rear wheel.
Okay, what you will need for this is chain lube and cleaner, a paper and pencil, a measuring tape, a 12 and 14 millimeter wrench, a 24 millimeter wrench or a socket and driver, some pliers, and I recommend using good tools. Don't use the stock toolkit.
Start by spraying some of the chain lube on the top of the chain here. And then place the rag underneath, kind of squeeze the chain, try to get off as much dirt and grime as you can, and then we're going to continue this all the way around. And now that we've gone all the way around on the outside of the chain, going to go on the inside of the chain and do the same thing. Just spray a little section and clean it. And then turn the wheel, move to the next section and clean it. And you notice I got some chain lube on the tire itself. Try not to get a lot on it, but when you do, be careful the first time you go out and actually ride the bike, since there might be some on it. Alright, now that the chain is clean, I'm going to go ahead and adjust it. And I'm going to wait to put more lube on the chain, that way I don't get quite as dirty while I'm adjusting it. Okay, the first thing I want to do to adjust the chain is go ahead and remove this cotter pin and loosen up this bolt, as well as loosen up these adjusters on both sides so that the whole tire can be moved back.
Use the 24 and the 17 to loosen up the axle nut. Use the 17 on this side to hold the axle bolt from turning.
Okay, now we need to loosen up the adjusters on both sides. You can do this by holding the big bolt, which is a 14, and turning the smaller bolt, which is a 12. Go ahead and back the 12 quite a ways out. You're actually going to adjust the wheel outwards by tightening up this 14. But we want to make sure that we do this on both sides evenly so that the wheel does not get turned. Okay, now we're going to actually measure out the chain to where it needs to be. We're going to use the piece of paper and your pen and the measuring tape. What you're going to do is actually make a line that's 1 inch apart. Now on this bike, they recommend 0.8 to 1.2 inches slack in the chain, and what they're talking about is a measurement from the lowest point. That's when we put a little bit of pressure, and you can see the chain up here goes tight. Put a little bit of pressure on it. We're going to measure from the top of the chain and push it up, put a little bit of pressure on it, to the top of the chain. The distance in between those two should be between 0.8 and 1.2 inches. Now I'm going to go right in the middle of that with a 1 inch line, and this piece of paper is going to help us adjust it. Now obviously this is more than that. We'll line that up right there, and that goes all the way above, even on the bottom of that second line, so this is definitely too loose. Now you're going to want to measure it in the middle, in between the 2 sprockets, because this is where it's going to move the most. That's going to be about where this front bolt is for the chain guard here. I'm going to start by tightening this up. We're going to use the 14 on it, and I'll go about 2 turns on it to start with. Don't get too far ahead of yourself on one side. Make sure you go back to the other side and do the same thing. We're going to tighten this up, which is moving the wheel outwards away from the front sprocket.
After tightening the adjusters, measure the chain slack as shown in the diagram here. If it's still too loose, then tighten the adjuster some more.
Now if you happen to go too tight with it, what you'll have to do is loosen this bolt back up. And do it on both sides. And then you'll actually have to push the tire in. Just give it a nice smack. Make sure you don't hit it too hard so you don't knock the bike off of the stand. Okay, you can double check your alignment from side to side by using these marks right here. You can count the marks, and then you can use this line right here for reference to make sure that both sides are evenly adjusted. Now with the chain adjusted where it should be, we're going to go ahead and tighten back up these adjusting bolts. Make sure to hold both parts of it so you don't accidentally turn the bigger adjuster. And these just need to be snug, don't over tighten them. Okay, now that both adjusters are tight, I went ahead and checked the slack in the chain again. I'm not going to show that because I already showed how to do it. But double check it, make sure everything's still fine. If it is, go ahead and tighten up the main axle bolt. Now use a new cotter pin and reinstall it. And then bend your tabs back out with the pliers. Okay, after tightening up the axle bolt, go ahead and double check the slack in the chain, make sure that that's still alright. And if that's alright, then we're going to go ahead and lube up the chain. I'm going to use a clean paper towel. I'm going to hold on here just lightly to pick up any excess. But we're going to do basically the same thing as cleaning it. Spray a section of it and then turn it around. Or if you have somebody to help you, then have them turn the wheel while you do it. Makes it go much faster. Okay, go ahead and do the same thing on the inside again.
After you're done lubing the chain, let the bike sit for a little while so the lube can actually soak into the chain instead of just flying off of it. If you do get any lube on the tire, be careful when you're first riding it so that can get worn off before you start cornering hard or anything. Ride safe, and thanks for watching my video.